gross people put shoe, or young people put the Zine packets, things like that, just right in there. You have your label frenulums there and there. That's it. Everything between the teeth and the fauces is this boundary right here. Everything there is oral cavity proper. There you have your tongue and lingual tonsils. This boundary right here, not really a thing, just a boundary between the oral cavity and the oral pharynx, is the fauces. Underneath your soft palate, or your uvula really, and your down to your epiglottis, this area right here is the oropharynx. Then from here down to the esophagus, this area is the laryngopharynx. There. Okay? And then your oropharynx and laryngopharynx is made up of moist stratified squamous epithelium because you're eating food and it could rip it open, so it has to be stratified. And then you have your lingual tonsils and palatine tonsils here. This stuff is nasal cavity we're not going to worry about today. Not nasopharynx. Okay, then we get to the esophagus, and that's it. So not even much on here. I do have teeth models I don't go over, but if anyone's going to become a dentist or dental hygienist, I can do it. Otherwise, I just skip them. So, okay. Then we get to your esophagus. So, esophagus, pretty simple. And then to the organs. I just wanted you to see these set up and just see them intact before I take them apart. Just like little simple things. You ask a kid where their stomach is, where do they say? Like by their belly button. Where's your stomach? Underneath your ribs. Like it's up here. So, but the thing is, when you have referred pain, like when you have intestinal pain, like you have cramps and diarrhea, the referred pain refers it to right here. And so that's why kids think that their stomach is here and their digestive system's here, because one, that's where it hurts when it hurts, and then they just think this is belly and that's where your stomach goes. But here's your ribs, end of the ribs, and look where your stomach is. End of the ribs, your stomach is underneath your ribs, way up here. And then liver, upper right side, and then you have your small intestines and large intestines. So I just wanted to see them intact before I take them apart. Okay. And I'm just going to do all this. Okay. So now we'll go stomach, intestines, rectum. I did purchase it, and I'm being completely honest, I've never used it on a test. Where did I put my pencil? Okay. Watch where I step. Okay, so this is a look at your histology of your digestive system of different areas. Okay, so let's look at clues here to figure out which area is which. So first of all, in general, this is your mucosa, lamina propria, smooth muscles associated with the mucosa, submucosa, and then smooth muscles. And then your peritoneum, or your mesenteries. Okay, now let's look at these layers and figure out what they are. Okay, what do you think this is? And your best clue is right here. Okay, what type of epithelium is that? It's stratified squamous. So where in your digestive tract do we have stratified squamous? Mouth, pharynx, esophagus. This is esophagus, is what they're trying to say. So esophagus has to be stratified to protect you from ripping open when you chew food. Okay, then this one, and this one. Okay, here's a huge clue. Like this one kind of looks like this one. Like which one? Okay, let's look at this one. Think of what these big things are coming up like this. Anyone remember what these might be? We learned about them today, and it taught us the reason for another word that we learned about last semester. A big one, and then there's small ones on the cells themselves.
Villi and microvilli.
Yeah, villi and microvilli. So, this is a villi, and then on every individual cell you'd have microvilli. So because these are villi, this is small intestines. So what do you think this is? In between esophagus and small intestines? This is stomach. With your gastric pits and things, and your neck mucosa cells, surface mucosa cells, those would be there. Here you have your villi, and then by the time you get to large intestines, you don't really have, I mean, you kind of have villi, but not really. So, large intestines, small stomach, esophagus. And then smooth muscles. Really, this one, what's this missing? If this is stomach, this actually should have 3 layers. So this model's incorrect. There should be 3 layers of smooth muscles in your stomach. The rest have 2 layers. So probably not on your chest, but it's decent enough to look at it. Okay, so now we're to stomach. We have 2 stomachs to cover. I'll go over both of them. Okay, so this one, here's your stomach. You have your lesser curvature, where your lesser omentum suspends the stomach from the liver. Greater curvature, where your greater omentum, you can even see a little bit of it right here, this greater omentum is that fat pad that goes in front of the small intestines and back up to the large intestines where people get beer bellies. Greater omentum, along the greater curvature. This is your cardiac sphincter or gastroesophageal sphincter. And this is your pyloric sphincter. Okay. I'm going to do this twice, once on the outside, then on the inside. It's going to be better on the inside. But this area right here, that's the cardiac part. Above the pencil, fundus. Between pencil and my finger, body. Pyloric part with the antrum and the canal. On the inside, it'll make more sense, especially right here. This, like above my finger, that's the cardiac part. After the cardiac sphincter, but before the rest of the stomach, you have this little part right here, cardiac part. Then everything above here, basically that, is the fundus. When the fundus gets stretched out, you get that, oh my god, I'm so stuffed feeling, just like you're absolutely full, like after a buffet or holiday meal. Right there. From about here to here, that's the body. Pyloric antrum, and then when it gets skinnier, pyloric canal. And these folds are called rugae. They allow the stomach to stretch out a bunch without ripping. That's it. That's everything on this model to cover. Same things, some of them, but also a little bit more. So, you do have lesser curvature, greater curvature. Cardiac sphincter, here would be the pyloric sphincter, but they just have food there and there. Okay? But what we can see on the outside, we can see some more stuff. So we have your 3 layers. You have your longitudinal layer that runs lengthwise up through the stomach, making the stomach contract like that. Circular layer in the middle, making it contract like this. And an oblique layer running at an angle on the inside, making it contract at an angle. So combining 3 different directions, you get more movement than your stomach would have if it just had one set of these. Okay. And then you have your enteric plexus. This one is the myenteric plexus. And this one on the bottom might be, they're trying to depict, I think they're a submucosal plexus. I think I'm right. Am I right on that? I think so. Not sure. But that would definitely be myenteric plexus. But anyways, if you just say enteric plexus, if I ask this, that's fine. Myenteric plexus moves the muscles. Your submucosal plexus is going to sense how much food is in your stomach by sensing the stretching and control the production of hydrochloric acid and pepsin, gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, and things like that. And then rugae, and the parts are as well shown on here. Cardiac part, kind of right there. Fundus above there. Body, pyloric antrum, pyloric canal. Okay, So then, from your stomach, we go into the pancreas. So this is the exact same, literally like exact same as right here. That's from the same company, same model, like just separate. So your stomach hooks up like this. So your pyloric sphincter empties into your duodenum. This is the duodenum. It's the first 25 centimeters or about 10 inches of your intestines. There are circular folds that are big enough to see with the naked eye. We will see the circular folds on the cadavers. We can see it with our eyes, with the camera that took pictures. And then there's only two more things in here. There is this right here. This is the minor duodenal papilla, that little hole. And what comes out of there is the accessory pancreatic duct. Comes out the minor duodenal papilla. So the only thing to come out of the minor duodenal papilla is pancreatic juice. It's so funny that that's what's called. I'll never think that's not funny. Okay. Then this one is the major duodenal papilla. And what happens is your pancreatic duct, bringing pancreatic juice, combines with the common bile duct that's coming from the liver and or gallbladder, either or both. The common bile duct fuses with the pancreatic duct to form the hepatopancreatic ampulla, not shown, we can make it out on the Namarch table if I get the right angles. Okay? And then the ampulla exits to the major duodenal papilla. And then that's just the pancreas. And really, pancreas, all we're going to cover is pancreas, pancreatic duct, and accessory duct. That's it. 3 things total. I'll probably test on 2 or 3. So know all 3. There's 3 things. Okay. Sorry. So then we go from the duodenum or duodenum to your small intestines. The top half, the first half, is the jejunum, and the second half is the ileum. Not half, it's like 2.5 meters versus 3.5 meters, but close enough. So first 1/3 and second 2/3. It's gonna be closer. Okay? And then, so this will empty into there like that. Now I probably, okay, if I don't move it, I'm fine. Okay, there's the center. Okay, so I'm not gonna come here and be like, what's that? Is that the jejunum or ileum? I don't know. I mean, it's on the top half, but the jejunum is only the first third. So what I would do is come to here. What's this? That's the jejunum, and this is the ileum. And I remember the ileum because it empties through the ileocecal junction into the cecum. So you have jejunum to start, ileum at the end, and then this is your mesentery. So on here, 3 things total. I was looking for this, it was upside down. I was confused. Same thing. So, beginning is the jejunum, end is the ileum, and this is the mesentery. That's it. Okay. Now the 2 models of large intestines, they both, this one's better, but that one has some things that's okay on it too. This one is missing that part. Okay, so just big picture. That's too close. Oh, sorry, wrong button. You have your ascending colon transverse colon, descending colon, your squiggly sigmoid colon, and then your rectum, which is on this model, this is probably still the sigmoid colon because the rectums are here. There's the rectum. Okay. So you have ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon. Rectum's below in this model. You do have your flexures. You have a right colic flexure and left colic flexure. Really quickly, I just have called colic. The words colon and large intestine are the same thing. They're interchangeable. So, okay, now let's go over smaller parts of these. So that's just big picture. So starting down here, we have your ileum and your cecum. This is the ileocecal junction. That is made up of two parts. You have your ileocecal sphincter here, and what that does is it only lets the most liquefied food through. So if some food is still a little bit solid, you still have time to chemically and tiny little bit mechanically digest food before it moves on. So only the most liquefied food moves on, and that's due to the constriction of the ileocecal sphincter. And then this is the ileocecal valve that prevents backflow. So nothing can go backwards. So all this bacteria that's filled in here can't go backwards. And then this is the cecum. Off the cecum, we have your variform appendix. Okay, so a few things with your appendix. First of all, if you ever push here and it hurts, what should you do? Immediately, or you'll die. You go to the ER right away. Don't go, not even doctor, go urgent care, go to the ER. Because they'll just send you there anyways. Go to the ER, they'll cut you open and look. If it's inflamed, they'll remove it. If it's not inflamed, they might go ahead and remove it anyways, because they cut you open. So, but typically it's pretty much, if you have pain here, you probably have inflamed appendix or appendicitis. I couldn't think of that word for a second. Okay, now, as I have said many times, and I'll reaffirm it, there's nothing vestigial. I haven't said it further. They took a test on Wednesday and they're going to take it again on 2 Mondays from now. So, okay, nothing in an adult human is vestigial. That means left over from evolution. And really the closest thing we have to something that's left over from evolution in an adult human is right here. These muscles that move our ears around. We don't need to do it. I don't know how to do it. It might have atrophy that I don't even have these anymore. I haven't used them for 43 years. They're obviously gone. So we don't need them. Other animals use them all the time, like cats and dogs and things. We just don't really know them. That's the closest thing that's left over from evolution. This, people will teach in high school, is vestigial, but it's not. But another thing is, this is not needed in the United States of America. It's needed in other countries because of our sewer systems. So one of the things that has saved most lives in medicine is not medicine, it's plumbers. People who make pipes. So when you go to the bathroom, you poop, you flush it, it goes down by 2nd Street and 12th Avenue, or 1st Street and 12th Avenue, and just go beyond that past this transfer station, right next to the Loup River is our water treatment plant. It goes there, they introduce a bunch of bacteria to the poop, the bacteria eat up the poop, and they remove all the solids like tampons and condoms and things that should be flushed but are, and then and vapes, and those get flushed all the time. And in the high schools and middle schoolers, whenever they get caught with a vape, they just flush it. So their pipes get constantly clogged with disposable vapes, which are not super cheap. I've never purchased one, but they're not. I wouldn't do that. But anyways, so they remove that, and then what do they do with the water? They dump it into the Loup River. So, so we don't have to deal with it. What did we used to do in the past? We'd poop into chamber pots or like just buckets and then go dump it. And there's still places where the sewage runs down the street in the middle of the road. Not many, but they still exist. And so in those areas where sewage is just out in the environment, they get things like dysentery. Did we used to get dysentery? Yeah, think about Oregon Trail. I know that game was around my age, but I actually played it in elementary school, but you might have seen the memes about it, but people die from dysentery. We don't die from dysentery anymore because we're not exposed to raw sewage constantly. So when you get dysentery, basically everything comes out. Just everything comes out, and so you flush out everything, and you have so much diarrhea and you poop so much that you poop out all your bacteria. And then what happens is if you have dysentery and you completely remove your bacteria from large intestines, because you just flush it, right here, there can be some good bacteria in your appendix, and your appendix can repopulate your large intestines. If you don't have an appendix, the only option you have then is a fecal transplant, where they take someone else's feces and stick it up your rectum. Or they put it into pill form and you swallow it. And it doesn't break down until it gets to your large intestines because the pill is made up of cellulose that our body doesn't digest until it gets to large intestines. So, and fecal transplants work. It's super gross. But they test them for diseases. They're not going to get a disease from it, but it's still gross. You can imagine someone else's poops being put inside you. That's really what the appendix is for. But we don't need it because no one gets dysentery here. Because we're lucky. Okay. And as we go up, we have your cecum, ascending colon, transverse, descending sigmoid. On your colon, you have these little pouches called haustras. Really kind of just basically, they're kind of a byproduct of this right here. This is a muscle called a tennae coli muscle. You have like 3 of them. There's one shown here, the others aren't shown. And what they do is they contract, and they contract lengthwise. And when you contract something lengthwise, look what happens to it. It bunches up. So you get these little pouches. If you get too much of that, and it pouches up too much, it's called diverculitis. And you can get like stuff stuck in there. Like my father-in-law got a Equate brand Advil stuck in one of these little pouches, and he had to get it surgically removed. And the surgeon took it out, put it in water, and it didn't dissolve, and didn't dissolve, and didn't dissolve. Finally, the surgeon was like, "What's going on?" He cut it in half. There was no ibuprofen in the middle. It was just a pill of pure coating, solid coating. So that was a manufacturing error from Walmart brand. But still, what's the only ibuprofen I buy? Equate. It's cheap. So I don't ever buy Tylenol for myself. I don't use it. I never have. Also, they did come out and RFK did admit that there's no evidence that Tylenol causes autism this last week. So stay with the stocks, buy the stocks, and then let it go back up in price. It's market manipulation. So they're getting rich, and people are starving. But that's how things work. So that is a hostra, and that's a tennae coli. What's not on here are little fat things called omental appendages. They're not present. This is your mesentery. And that's it. Nowhere near as detailed, but you have your ileocecal right valve here, cecum, appendix, ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, sigmoid colon, and then here, this one's a rectum, right here. And then you have your haustras, your little pouches, and then you have your tennae coli. And when these tennae coli constrict, they're what cause your mass movements, where all your food moves at once, and gives you that, oh my, I really gotta go to the bathroom right now feeling. Okay. Now, more on the rectum. Let's do woman first. So here is a female. Okay. Women do have 3 holes. I have had 3 female students who thought they only had 2. So, I don't know. My only response was like, dude, how do you pee when you had a tampon in? Like, you know, like, How'd that work? It didn't make sense, so. Okay, so just here, that's the vagina, that hole, that's the anus, and your urethra is there. So urethral orifice, vaginal orifice, anus. Okay, so here, we're just gonna focus on rectum. We'll come back to urinary system, reproductive system for your next test. But right here, this is your rectum. It's just a straight muscular tube that goes down and then goes out. Your rectum is now, again, it's now made up of moist stratified squamous epithelium because your food is going, your chyme is going from liquidy, watery chyme to solid feces. It's turning into solid log, and especially like after you eat corn on the cob the next day, it's stud on it, so things can scrape, and so it needs to be moist stratified squamous epithelium. If it's still simple, you'd rip open and dig it out. Okay, and then you come here, and you have your anal canal in the anus, and then you have two sets of muscles. You have an internal anal sphincter that's made up of smooth muscles. It helps a little, not a ton. When we get to your internal urinary sphincters, I mean, they do nothing. So we'll get to that later on. But internal anal sphincter, smooth muscle, does a little bit to make you not poop. What really keeps you continent your whole life is your external anal sphincter made up of skeletal muscle. And this external anal sphincter will only relax when your spinal cord tells it to. And then you will poop. And we'll get to that in lecture on Monday, on how you actually defecate. So, rectum, internal anal sphincter, external anal sphincter. And for a guy, you have rectum, again, it's moist stratified squamous epithelium, internal anal sphincter, external anal sphincter, anal canal, and anus. There's no difference between a male and female rectum at all. But what do women have in them that guys don't? The uterus. In a non-pregnant woman, the uterus will not affect the rectum at all. Let me just show you this. Let me grab some. There we go. Look at a pregnant woman. So look at someone who's like 8-9 months pregnant. Okay. First of all, that's her bladder. So when you're like 8-9 months